I think one of the most interesting unanswered questions in ReZero so far is just who Emilia's mother is. One, because of how many characters that we've been introduced to that it could be. And two, I think that given all the information that we know up to Arc 4, I think we'll be able to pretty accurately narrow that list down onto one character. So let's get into it. Now, first things first, starting off with the most obvious answer as to who Emilia's mother is, we have Satella. And I get it, because let's be so for real, the resemblance is fucking uncanny. If you would have asked me 5 years ago who Emilia's mother is, I probably would have said Satella too. However, let me tell you why this doesn't work. First things first, we know that Satella / the Witch of Envy is a half-elf. However, we also know that Emilia is a half-elf. So this means that for Emilia to be considered a perfect half-elf, she would need one full elf parent and one full human parent. Now we know from Arc 4 from Mother Fortuna that Emilia gets her elf traits being her purple eyes and silver hair from her father's side, meaning that her mother has to be a full human. And that crosses Satella off the list because she is half elf. For Emilia to be Satella's daughter, Emilia would have to be 3/4 elf. Three quarters elf. So it don't work. However, this does not mean that there is no significance between like why they look so much alike. I might make a theory video about this in the future, but moving on. Now, interestingly, next, I want to talk about Fortuna. Now, while we all know that Mother Fortuna can't be Emilia's mother because she's quite literally her aunt, I wanted to bring Mother Fortuna up because while I haven't seen talks about her being Emilia's mom, surprisingly, I have seen talks about Sirius. Obviously, this is because of the purple eye and silver hair comparisons. However, in my opinion, I think this is a reach because I feel like it's more than likely that Mother Fortuna is Sirius due to the fact that they specialize in the same type of magic, seem to have the same type of infatuation with Betelgeuse, and also, as we've seen with like Therese and shit, Pandora has a habit of reanimating corpses. So yeah, I don't really think this works either. But while we're talking about Pandora, I've also seen some people theorize that she might be Emilia's mother because of like the silver / platinum hair comparisons, but this also don't really gel with me either. Firstly, in the flashback that Pandora was first introduced in, it is very implied that Pandora had something to do with the deaths of Emilia's parents, or at the very least her father. And secondly, later on in the flashback when Pandora is interrogating Emilia about the whereabouts of the key, in the novels, Pandora says, and I quote, "But of course you do, you must have the key. After all, whatever you may look like, you are still a witch's daughter." And from this, I think we should take away two things. This key, whatever it is, must have been entrusted to Emilia from Emilia's mother. And if Pandora is Emilia's mother, Pandora should know where this key is. And albeit Pandora was fairly certain that Emilia had the key, but I still feel like it wouldn't make much sense for Pandora to give Emilia the key if she knew that she would need it in the first place, and then redundant to try to pry it off of her. And second, I find it very interesting that Pandora calls Emilia a witch's daughter. And as we know, there are only 7 of them, or I guess 8, if we include Vainglory. So let's move our attention to them. Out of these 7 main witches of sin that we're aware of, I think there are only 2 main candidates. The first being Echidna. Now, Echidna is very interesting because despite having like the white / silver hair comparison, given her absolute hatred towards Emilia, and also what I'm about to bring up, the roads don't really point to her, but let me explain my point. So in the novels, there is a bit of cut content from the anime regarding Echidna's relationship and knowledge about Emilia's mother. At the end of Emilia's first trial, Echidna actually says that she knows Emilia's mother, and said, and I quote, "She was pushy, complacent, hubristic, egotistic, and hypocritical, and that she had a sort of jealousy described as, why is it always you?" Now, if Echidna was Emilia's mother, why would she be talking about herself that way? However, I think by using every single clue we just talked about, I think we can pretty accurately narrow down who this character is. And that character has to be none other than the Witch of Wrath, Minerva. Let me explain. Firstly, Minerva is a witch and a human one, it seems like, so we can check both of those off our list. Secondly, it is also cut content from the anime that Minerva actually had a connection to the elves. In the web novel, it's told to us that Minerva actually led a group of elves in a location known as the Borroid Plain. And if you ask me, this connection between Minerva and the elves wouldn't be made for no reason. It's most likely that due to these connections with the elves, Minerva may have found Emilia's dad. And, you know, one thing led to another, boop, Emilia. Following this train of logic, this also answers another one of our questions. Who gave Emilia that key? Well, given the fact that this key supposedly opens up a seal to this door in Elier Forest, which is the home to most of the elves in the ReZero world, and also that we know that Minerva has a connection to these elves, I feel like this only further points to Minerva being Emilia's mother. But we can get deeper. It was also cut content in season 2 of the anime, but the manner of deaths of all the witches of sin was given. And Minerva supposedly died of insanity to a trap. But in a Q&A with the author a couple years ago, this event was actually further expanded upon. Somebody had asked, in the past, Minerva was trapped by the elves, but what on earth were they thinking? And Tappy answered, the elves are just collateral damage to make Minerva fall into a trap. The elves are sent as a suicide squad, and in order to save them, Minerva jumped in and fell into the evil clutches of the powers that be, whatever the fuck that means. Now, when I hear the term evil clutches, I'm only thinking of the witches cult. And who leads the witches cult? Pandora. And what do we know is one of the things that Pandora's after? The key. That I guess Minerva would have had on her if she hadn't given it to Emilia. And by the way, I know this is just speculation, but tap the fuck in. It makes sense. Now, at this point, y'all might be thinking, okay, it makes sense for the most part, but Mob, how the fuck would Minerva give birth to Emilia? Minerva died over 400 years ago, and Emilia is only 115. And I think we have an answer. Going back to that same Q&A, I omitted something. Tappy's full answer reads, the elves are sent as a suicide squad, and in order to save them, Minerva ran, fell into the clutches of the evil powers that be, witch time. Now, y'all might be asking, what the fuck is witch time? Luckily, Tappy clarifies this and says that witch time is, quote, being pack-and-choed by the Witch of Envy. I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't know what the fuck a pack-and-chow is, but let's use our heads. Tappy mentioned the Witch of Envy, a witch known for manipulating time. If she can send people back in time like she did with Subaru, what makes us think that she can't send people forward into the future? So maybe that's what happened with Minerva? I mean, he did say witch time, but speculation nonetheless. Now, I want to bring up one more final nail in the coffin. There is one more piece of cut content from the anime where in the novels, at the end of Emilia's third trial, Emilia didn't meet Minerva, she actually met Sekhmet. Sekhmet mentions to Emilia that like her mother, she is is not timid during critical situations, and also that for some reason Minerva cannot show her face to Emilia. And when the name Minerva is spoken, the narration points out that the name Minerva is a name very nostalgic to Emilia, and quote, could evoke thoughts of somebody very close to her. And if that is not the girthiest hint in the fucking world, I don't know what is. Then of course you also got the anime only scene, and I feel like that's also another big hint. But that's pretty much it, y'all. I rest my case. I am like 99% sure that Minerva is Emilia's mother. If I am wrong, may God smite my left nut. But yeah, yo, that's pretty much it. There's also a much more thought out video on YouTube about this very topic by this ReZero creator named Jakes. I'm gonna put his thumbnail up here. It is a really good video. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Maybe you've heard this theory before, but if you still enjoyed this video, please like, please follow, and also check out the Twitch. It would be greatly appreciated. And that's pretty much it. I'ma catch you.